I finally cleared BFD. Yeah, I know, it took me a week to clear BFD. I am one of those losers with a job. I wish I could get American welfare, but the damn president won't let me in. Anyway, I did it essentially badass naked and without my survival of the fittest rune, that is like the one that makes me take 20% less damage. I didn't have it, and we still did a full clear in about 90 minutes. Half the wipes were about me messing up the mechanics, so yeah, I am gonna break down all the mistakes I did, all the bosses, how you're supposed to tank them, off tank or main tank, so you do not have to suffer the same fate as my poor raid had to do. First of all, we're gonna cover some basics here. You're gonna want some shadow protection potions. They are on the expensive side. I paid like 30 silver I think for some of them, but you need them for a lot of mechanics in BFD. They are always great value. You pop them and I think for about 5 minutes you have a shield that covers shadow damage, like a priest shield, something like that. And you can pre-use them before you pull, so that way when you go to pull, you have one of them again off of cooldown by the time you pull the boss. That is super important. Also, another pro tip, if you are a bear, you can use this macro right here. It will make you get out of bear form, use a potion and go back to bear form in a snap second, so you can drink potions as a bear. It's just a little bit of a pain. Your best elixir is probably gonna be the elixir of agility as a bear, which is kind of expensive. Warriors probably the same, but if you wanna go cheaper, you can get the elixir of defense. It's just armor. It's still pretty good, especially for a bear. That thing is nearly worthless. I would probably take that. Aside from that, before you get to BFD, you are gonna want to get some heavy armor kits. They are cheap enchants for most of your armor. They give you armor. They are not ideal probably, but they are like dirt cheap and they make a huge difference, especially early on when you do not have a lot of gear. I didn't even have a helmet, so I needed as much armor as I could get. Trash is rather simple. You just boom 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 boom, and as long as you got 3 melees and they try to share the aggro a little bit, because you cannot just take all of them at the same time, right? Like, you're not gonna get the threat to do it unless you're a paladin probably. But yeah, you just hold aggro on whatever you can and it's gonna be fine. It's not really hard. Just let the mages and the warlocks put in work on them, try to stack them up and you're gonna be fine. What I will say is that if you're ready to clear a boss, you wanna clear out all the yellow non-hostile crabs, because all it takes is one cleave or one AoE and you're gonna wipe the raid with them. Very well, first boss is gonna be Baron Aquanis. Before we do anything, we gotta prepare the room for him. You gotta go under him and the water and clear every mob that's in there, every hostile mob at least. And then you wanna go and clear all the water elementals that are on the water, because they make him stronger, so we gotta kill them before we do him, obviously. The reason you gotta clear the water mobs is because you are gonna be falling into the water at some point, and if you pull a mob you're gonna die. Anyway, all you gotta watch for is he got a knockback, so make sure that your back is not facing right against a ledge. Try to be a little closer. And the other mechanic he will do is he's gonna do an AoE thunderstorm. You gotta move away from the thunderstorm. It's that simple. If you cannot move away because you're in like a tight spot, because the layout is like broken stones, it's really annoying to jump on them, you can just drop in the water, do the whole loop and come back. That is acceptable. Just get out of it. I have some weak auras for you, they are gonna be in the description. This is gonna be your DBM until we get an actual DBM module for BFD. But aside from moving away from the AoE, this fight is essentially a tank and spank. This was pretty easy. Just burn him and go. Next boss is Gamura. I am not even gonna lie, I didn't even know what he did until we pulled her, and that's how I died. Make sure to pull all the turtles in the room here, because you're gonna want to run around the map a lot in here. The fight itself is basically 2 mechanics. She will summon a bunch of orbs. Do not stand on the orbs, that's it. Shadow protection potions will save you from the orbs, but just don't step on them, that's cheaper. Second is she will cast a bubble on herself, and that will like give her a shield. And when you burn that shield, she's gonna charge it again and explode around her. As a tank, you can't really avoid that, right? So you gotta ask your healers preemptively to drop you a shield when that happens. and everybody else, you know, the DPSers, just gotta move away. She's got another minor mechanic. She will try to stack you until you got too many stacks and you die like all the other bosses. So you can swap tanks to get rid of them, but honestly she dies fast enough that it is not a problem most of the time. Next boss is Lady Saberes. She's a stat checking boss, okay? I'm gonna explain you. You're gonna need 2 tanks. You gotta choose the tankiest tank in your raid, and then you gotta take the elite ad that is with her, and you gotta tank him away from the rest of the raid. The other tank is gonna tank Lady Saberes. She doesn't hit particularly hard, make sure to face her away from the raid. She is gonna be doing chain lightning, so spread out. You can kick it, but you're probably not gonna have enough kicks for all of them. She does them pretty often. And after a minute, she will summon another ad. Now, I'm gonna tell you the intended way of fighting this boss is that you kill the ad, fight her, kill the ad, fight her. That's what you're intended to do. What in reality everybody does is you're just gonna burn her under a minute. You can do it, she doesn't have a lot of HP. Just try to kill her under a minute, and if the ads spawn before you do, just try to pull all the other mobs that spawn and make like your last stand, pop all your cooldowns, and just hope that your raid can kill her before you die. Next is Gelihast. Once again you gotta clear the room for all the Murlocs because you're gonna need the space. He is a pain in the butt. You only need 1 tank for this fight, so that makes it a lot easier. You just tank him, you DPS him down. When he gets low, he's gonna heal himself, and he's gonna summon a bunch of void zones. Do not step on the void zones. Then there's gonna be a bunch of ghost Murlocs that work. If you touch them, you die basically, so it's like a bullet hell game. You gotta like aim your camera above you and just make sure you don't run into them. It's that simple. Once it's over, he just goes back to normal. You gotta do this once again. You gotta do this 3 phases actually. You DPS him down, the Murlocs happen, rinse and repeat. The 3rd time, he's gonna summon some tentacles. You gotta kill the tentacles as fast as possible, and then you just kill the boss. It's that simple. For a tank, it is super simple. The real test is having your entire raid dodge it. Trust me, I know. As a matter of fact, you're gonna see me dying in this video a lot. I am not very smart. Time for the gauntlet. The gauntlet took me way long that I care to admit, honestly. I wiped the raid here actually. This place has waterfall doors that you gotta get through them. You have to go in, they keep spawning Murlocs, and you are racing against time, right? You are gonna need ideally 3 tanks for this. 1 tank is gonna be tanking the elite guard guy and face him away from the raid because he cleaves and hurts really bad. Then you're gonna take whatever melee DPS that can get aggro, and that guy is gonna go get aggro on the priestess and try to just hold aggro and not do a lot of damage to her, and he's gonna move her away from the raid as much as possible. We do not want her to die early at all. And the 3rd guy, this was my job in this case, it was to pick up all the Murlocs and run them all the way next to the elite guard so the raid can AoE them down as fast as possible. The trick is to kill everything but the priestess and then let the priestess die at the last second. So that way you do not have to fight all the packs at once. Then on the last door of the gauntlet, you're gonna get another pack that you need to burn as soon as possible because the boss is right there. You wanna take all the mobs, put them next to the boss and just AoE them down if you can, clip them down, whatever you may wanna call it. Once the trash dies, you got 1 tank to tank Lorgus Jet and everybody else is just gonna DPS, including the tanks. It is basically a tank and spank. All you really gotta do is kill the totems when they spawn. It's that simple. Lightning Shield Totem is really bad, you gotta get rid of that. Wind Fury Totem is really bad. Whatever those totems, if they stand too long, they are gonna kill the boss. Make sure they are not there. And that's pretty much it. This one was pretty easy. Once we got to him, the gauntlet was the hard part. Once we got to him, it was pretty simple. My raid chose not to kill the Molten Fury Totem, like we chose to ignore it and just dodge it. If you don't want to risk it, you can kill it. It's about the same, it's not a huge deal. You absolutely have to kill the Wind Fury Totems and the Lightning Shield Totems. Those will really get you. Next boss is Twilight Lord Kelris, and this is in my opinion the hardest boss in BFD right now. Make sure to clear the whole room because he's gonna pull all the mobs with him, by the way. Now for the fight itself, there is 2 mechanics. First of all, he's gonna be casting Mind Blast and Shadow Chains or whatever. All you gotta do is kick him. If you cannot kick all of them, you can ignore the Mind Blast, but you absolutely gotta kick the Shadow Chains. They hurt a lot. You can dispel it too. If you fail to get an interrupt on the Shadow Chains, they are dispellable by a priest. The other mechanic, and this is the hard one, is that he is gonna pull the 2 people closest to him into a dream dimension, and you have to prepare for it, okay? From my experience, my raid, we only got 2 rotations of the dream before we got him down to the next phase, so it wasn't that hard. All you gotta do is take 4 people. You are gonna take your main tank, and you're gonna take a melee DPS, hopefully the one that does the most damage. And you're gonna sort it out like this. Range DPS, they are in range, it doesn't matter. Melee DPS are gonna be all the way on the longest melee range possible. And then the guy that you chose, the main tank and the best melee DPS that you got, they are gonna be on top of the boss. Right on top of the boss in the middle of the hitbox, right? He is gonna pull the main tank and the DPSer to a dream dimension. All you gotta do is kill the mobs that you find in that dimension until a portal opens up to go back. Meanwhile, outside of the dream, since the tank is gone, that means the off tank is gonna have to pick it up as soon as possible, and you are probably gonna be the tank for the rest of the fight. Now we are gonna need another 2 people to go into the dream. One of them is gonna be the tank that just picked up the boss, because it's not like you got a choice, you're on top of the boss. And we're gonna have to get another melee DPS that is really good. The better DPS, the better. He's gonna pull them once again, they gotta do the same thing, kill the mobs, go to the portal, and then here comes the next phase. When Kelris goes down to about 40% HP, you instruct all your raid to save your resources. That means like hold your mana, if you're a mage evocate, if you're a warrior stack rage, save every resource and cooldown that you can, including you as a tank, you should also be stacking rage. And you just slowly chip him down without cooldowns to 35%, and as soon as that happens, you blow everything you can absolutely as hard as you can, because this is a race against time before your healers cannot heal you anymore. He becomes much stronger, he just does everything at once, you can't interrupt the spells, he turns into a monster. It took a few tries, but once we figured out we had to hold our resources for that phase, it was pretty easy. Finally, Akumai, the boss of the raid. He is not as hard in my opinion, but he is complex. We are gonna need 2 tanks, one goes in first and picks up Akumai and faces him away from the raid, because he is gonna do an acid spit. Sometimes he targets a random target, I don't really get it, it's weird, but he's gonna just spit acid in front of the boss, right? And you gotta move away from it. If you can face him against the raid, that's one less chance of that happening. Even as a tank, you can walk away from him when he's doing the acid spit, because he gets locked up in place in the animation, but once he goes back to auto-attacking, you gotta go back to facing him against the raid. He's gonna be stacking damage debuffs on you, and once you get 3 stacks, you gotta move out and get the other tank to pick it up from you, because you're gonna die. And you gotta go to the water elementals to the next to you. Every time you cleanse the stacks, ads are gonna spawn and you're gonna have to pick them up. It is not a huge deal if you do not pick them up all at once. I couldn't because my gear was terrible and I didn't have the rage to do it, but as long as your raid kills them fast, it is not a problem. Then once the other tank gets 3 stacks, you just do the swap again, rinse and repeat, it's that simple. After Akumai gets below 50%, he goes shadow form and he gets much stronger, the debuff gets stronger, and when you cleanse it, you're gonna spawn super strong elemental monsters instead of the normal tiny elementals, and if you summon too many, you're gonna wipe the raid. This is a catch-22 situation. If you cleanse it, you wipe the raid with the ads, and if you do not cleanse it, you die. We tried a few things here actually, and the one that worked out for us is to just die. We let one tank go first, he stacks, he dies, we send another tank, he stacks, he dies, and so on and so forth, and you're just hoping that the healers can keep the melees up for long enough that you're gonna kill the boss. In my case, we barely got them after a pet picked it up. You know, the stupid scorpions, they are the best tank in the game now apparently, thank you Blizzard for that. So this is a kind of stat checky fight, yep, it's not too bad, but it will check your stats. And that's the whole stinking raid, it's pretty easy. I am bad at the game, okay? I am pretty bad at the game. Half the footage in this video is me messing up stuff, and I still cleared it in 90 minutes. Granted, I did have solid healers, I did have solid DPSers, yes, I was probably the least geared person in the raid, but in my humble opinion, I would have liked them to make the fights a lot harder. This is not hard enough. I am sure by next reset we're gonna get it down in like an hour. Lots of stupid wipes on my part, messing up the mechanics, and lots of mistakes to clean up in general, so I am hyped. I'll let you know how long we can get it down. Subscribe, leave a like, join the Discord, and thank you for watching!